as everyone else. It's kind of tedious, but we're getting through it and just day to day.
So my first question to you is, when did you get interested in playing basketball, and who is your biggest influencer in that?
Yeah, it's interesting because none of my family members played in college.
Right.
And my two older brothers played a little bit in high school, only their first 2 years, I believe. Um, but I would say I started getting really interested in probably sixth grade is when I guess fell in love with it. I started playing AAU that year, and that kind of changed the whole idea of like I really knew at that point I wanted to play Division One. But in terms of one specific, I guess, role model or person I looked up to, um, Allie Clement, she played for the Firecrackers, which is the AAU team I played for. And she was kind of paving the way for girls in Maine to play at the Division One level. So I just always looked up to her and her work ethic and everything she stood for. So definitely her.
So before we get to your high school career, who did you look up to in the WNBA or NBA while growing up?
I would say the first person that comes to mind is Maya Moore. I loved watching UConn. I watched all the UConn games. And she was just my favorite player. And that's why I started wearing 23 from a young age. And so in terms of the WNBA, definitely Maya Moore.
So now going to your high school career, you went to Gorham High School, and what was that like, the experience like, and what did you learn from there with the teammates and the coaching staff, and how to become a better player?
Yeah, I was really blessed going to Gorham High School just because it's a very family-oriented community. Um, Everyone is, like them very well. My math teacher was also my assistant basketball coach. So you just get to know people in like a different dynamic. And, we were very fortunate to have decent teams throughout my whole 4 years there. And then my last 2 years, we went undefeated. So 42-0, and ended up winning 2 consecutive state championships. But we had like Mackenzie Holmes, who plays at Indiana. I believe she was ranked like 53rd in the country overall. So great player. And we just had like we knew how to play as a team, and I think that was a big difference maker. Is it wasn't just Mackenzie or it wasn't just myself kind of running the games. It was really a team oriented thing. So I think that's what got us the furthest. But it was a great experience for me.
So what was the experience like? How was it like just to play big time games in high school and getting that opportunity? And obviously, every game was it means a lot. So what was it like to play games that means a lot, and then to get that experience, high level competition in high school?
Yeah, it was great. I mean, even through AAU, I would say, like competition wise, AAU definitely gave me a great deal of experience. We always tried to play the top teams, and that is what I mean. I always had more fun in those games because it's like, okay, this is what it's going to be like at the next level, and it shows you what a challenge it's going to be. But it also, it just showed me how fun it could be too. So I would say more AAU gave me that competition that I was looking for. But I mean, even in high school, the big like state championship games, those are the ones you always look forward to the most. And I know those 2 state championship games I won't forget because it was a packed house. You're playing on this big arena floor. So all things to look forward to, especially as a high schooler.
Hmm. So after your high school career, how many offers did you get coming out of high school, and what made you like to choose Villanova?
I believe I had a total of 53 offers. And then, it was just about narrowing it down and kind of knowing what I wanted. And I say that now, but I look back and think of like, I really didn't know what I wanted. I was like 15, 16-year-old girl, and like I didn't know what I wanted for breakfast that morning, let alone what school I wanted to choose. So you're kind of making a decision off sometimes other people and their influence they have on you. And at one point I got to like this point in the recruiting process where I just kind of wanted to be done. It can be very draining after a while. And I had it narrowed down. I had like Ohio State, DePaul, Villanova,
Wow.
and so I kind of was picking between those, and I had this feeling, so I went with Villanova. I had a great relationship with the coach. The campus was beautiful, and I say that because my mom and my parents always said that. I didn't really care, but sometimes that plays a factor. So ended up going there and just stayed there for 2 years.
So I obviously deciding is always hard for players. It's like being a free agent in professional sports. So for you, that day, the deciding day, how did you go? Did you go between different teams in your head before deciding that team, or did you already have Villanova the day before you decided on the day?
No, it was really deciding to pick Villanova was a very back and forth thing. And I did everything I could in terms of I did pros and cons list. I kept this notebook of every time a coach would call, and I just jot down some of the things they were saying. And I wanted to make sure they were consistent in what they were saying. So it definitely wasn't like a one-day thing, but there was a point where I was like, you know what, you can only do so much research, and at some point you just have to go with your gut feeling and trust it. And at the time, that was my gut instinct. So I just kind of pulled the trigger and picked Villanova.
So obviously Villanova is one of the top teams in the country, in my opinion, when it comes to basketball. And obviously you have Jay Wright there, a legendary coach in the men's side. And but what was it like? What was the experience like in Villanova playing in front of those fans? Philly fans could be crazy too. And but what was it like just playing in front of those fans every night? And the atmosphere in Villanova is amazing.
Yeah. It was great. So I redshirted my freshman year. We were able to travel a lot. We got to play at some very big arenas, like we got to play at Notre Dame. And we think Philly fans are crazy, and specifically Notre Dame fans can be pretty loud and rowdy too. So we just got it was a great experience. And then my second year, same thing, but being able to play definitely has a different energy to it. You look forward to being out on the court, having your name called, all those types of things. But yeah, Harry had been there for 42 years, so he has quite a few fans himself who come to the game, who support him and his program. So it's definitely an awesome experience. I mean, we got to play in the pavilion, which was newly renovated my redshirt freshman year, and it's like a $75 million arena that we got to play in with great lighting system, state-of-the-art facility things. But at the same time, I think the people are who make the experience.
So obviously I watched film on you, highlights, and you remind me of Sabrina High School.
Thank you.
Well, so while you were at Villanova, did you play against her?
No, we did not. No.
So did you watch her by afar and see how talented she is? And obviously, a rising rookie in the WNBA already. But have you connected with her throughout in your college career or no?
No, but I hadn't really watched her much before either, to be honest.
Yeah.
I more so watched like Breanna Stewart,
Right.
who can do anything, or Sue Bird in the WNBA. But Sabrina, like watching her over the past year or so, like she is someone who she just has a lot to her game. There's not necessarily one thing you can shut down and then it's like, oh, she's out for the game. She has such an arsenal of moves that she can use. So yeah, I love watching her play and kind of picking apart her game now.
Yeah, obviously I watch highlights, and the way you play the game, it just reminds me of her for some reason. And
Thank you, I appreciate it. I'll take that.
yeah, yeah. So and obviously, speaking of Brianna Stewart and Sue Bird, congrats to them on winning the championship in the WNBA. And I think Sue Bird just got engaged too. I think.
Yes, to
Yeah.
Megan Rapinoe.
Yes.
Very
Congrats
excited.
on that one too. And they're making big moves in their career. And so it's just amazing what I'm seeing. And um, so my next question to you, what? So obviously you transferred to Boston University, but was it tough? But before we get to that, I want to ask you, what was it like being recognized as one of the top players in the country in college basketball as a shooting guard, as a guard, when you were at Villanova?
Yeah, I don't know if I would necessarily say one of the top guards, but I did have great teammates to learn from. I had Adriana Hahn, who's a great shooting guard, can kind of do it all. I had Jana Tucker, who transferred from Tennessee at one point to Villanova. She was ranked 8th in the country. So, I had great people to learn from at Villanova. And I always attribute my game and like kind of the different style I have to having two older brothers and playing in the driveway with them a lot. So the whole step back fadeaway often came from me getting swatted in the driveway and I had to adjust somehow. So that was, yeah, kind of by default.
So was it tough leaving Villanova and that fan base and the coaching staff um, and what made you like to transfer to Boston University?
Yeah, I didn't necessarily know where I wanted to transfer. So I guess you could say at the time I just knew that I needed to transfer for multiple reasons. I think I had a different vision for my college career than what Villanova was giving me. Um, and so I started looking to transfer. And you know, it's kind of like you put your name in the transfer portal and all of a sudden the recruiting process starts all over again. So you get all the emails, the calls, um, which can be a bit overwhelming. And I think I put my name in towards the end of the year. It was right as midterms were happening and with calls and tests and trying to get back to people to show that you're interested in them. So, I mean, a couple of the schools I had looked at were obviously BU, Fordham,
Hmm.
Duke, GW. So, like, different variety of schools, but I just was looking for something different and closer to home. Was also kind of a thing on my list at that point. And when I got to campus and met Coach Mosley, who she came from UConn 3 years ago now, but she's just a great person. Like aside from being an amazing coach and having a great IQ for the game, she's just a wonderful person to be around. And one of my first conversations with her on the phone, I said, listen, like I want to become a better basketball player, but I also want to become a much better person and a better leader. And so she really took that to heart. And last year was such a character growing year for me that's when I knew I made the right choice.
So by the way, how did your midterms go?
This week or last year?
This last year and this week.
Last year, well, when I was transferring, they were a little rough. This year, still have a couple more, but they've gone okay. Knock on wood.
Yeah. So my next question, obviously, there was an article about you 4 weeks ago by Ethan Fuller. I read it. He was describing about you're getting ready for the season for Boston University, a redshirt junior you are now, and what's it? So what do you most looking forward to this season? And obviously, we're under different circumstances and living in a different world. And did they give you guys an update when you guys are going to start?
Yeah, so they've told everyone as of right now for our league, it's November 25th. Sorry, it's January 1st
Oh,
as
okay.
opposed to November 25th. So it's a little bit frustrating there, but very understandable in them having to make the calls. And in terms of like looking forward to something, at the end of the day, like I wasn't able to play last year because of the transfer rules and having to sit out. So I just look forward to playing a game, honestly. Like I'm like, okay, I'll take no fans, I'll take the least amount. Like it can be a pickup game. I just want to play a game. So yeah, just looking forward to playing for Coach Mo and getting a game in a BU gear under my belt.
So for you, training wise, obviously you're on campus, and what have you been doing training wise with your teammates? And is it tough wearing a mask during practices?
Yeah, it started out more as a challenge, and I think your lungs get used to it a little bit more. It definitely doesn't make it any more enjoyable as you go, though. But in terms of like training, we still do our lift sessions, we still do our practices. Everything's pretty much the same. But sometimes we'll break up into groups. The coaches have to wear a mask as well. So yeah, it's just we have separate drinking stations and all that type of stuff. So we try and be very cautious about our practice environment and just how we're going about our daily life.
So like, what's it feeling like? What's it feeling like just to be back on the court, even though it's not a game atmosphere, but just being back on the court with your teammates?
It was great. At first we had to start off in pods, so we'd have like 7 and 7, but just to be able to play with your teammates again, and kind of, for me at least, it was get the ropes of playing BU basketball and learning the offense and the plays. So that's always fun, but I'm a very competitive person. So once we got into practice and we were playing 5-on-5, I'm all about that. That was my favorite part.
So I want to get to two important topics that everybody should be talking about. The first one is women in sports. So for you as being an athlete, getting the opportunity to play the game you love, and seeing especially women coaching male sport like Becky Hammond from the Spurs, and she's getting her opportunity there. And what's it like just seeing all women getting the opportunities now?
It's very inspiring and encouraging. A couple of years ago, like I had gone back and forth. Do I want to get into coaching? Do I not? Like, do I think I would be, because my biggest fear is I'm not going to be a good enough coach. But I think at the end of the day, you learn as you go, and we have great females leading the way, and great females to learn from. So it's very inspiring to see, and it encourages me to, kind of push that fear aside of not being good enough, and just have them to look up to.
And another one is social injustice, and obviously Maya Moore started the whole thing, and kudos to her. And also now, Renee Montgomery's doing a great job. Oh, wait, screen for you. Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear
Oh,
you. You're just frozen.
all right, hold on. Oh, there we go. Yep. Oh man. Hello? Yep.
Okay, you're back, at least from what I see.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. Am I frozen still or no?
No, you're good.
I don't know what happened there. It's just the Wi-Fi issue has been crazy over here. I don't know. But my next question here is, obviously, yeah, women, we went through that, but now social injustice and another important topic. And obviously, Maya Moore started the whole thing. Kudos to her. Shout out to Maya Moore and Renee Montgomery now opting out of the season and focusing on the important things. And I got to interview Renee Montgomery on my show back in May. She's such an inspiration. I interviewed her and her head coach too. And what's it like just seeing everybody coming together, all these athletes from different sports coming together to figure out how do we fix this situation right now with the police brutality and the Black Lives Matter movement?
Yeah, it's great to see it, but you think about it too, like the WNBA,
Yeah.
in my opinion, kind of always starts the movement, or is always bold in who they are and stands behind every movement. In other sports kind of wait to see what they do to follow suit. So that makes me really proud to be a women's basketball player. Just in sort of, being always inspired by the WNBA players and what they stand for. Right now, specifically like for female athletes, being able to see that, I think it's incredible.
So for your own, what do you for your own goals for next season? For yourself, what are you trying to do just to become a better basketball player? And how many days do you train a day? And how many shots do you put up a day just to get ready for next season?
Yeah, right now it's very much like we'll have open gyms, and we have practice usually every day for 3 hours. So you get up a decent amount of shots. I couldn't tell you how many, but we sure do shooting drills, all your basic drills. And Coach Mo is very good about having a full practice of everything you need. But in terms of like what I need to develop, I would definitely say my 3-point shot. I've never loved to shoot 3-pointers. My game has pretty much been mid-range, step back, drive more so. That's kind of my most comfortable.
What advice would you give these young kids or young athletes that are trying to reach their goals?
One of my biggest ones would just be to remember why you started playing, and always enjoy the game. Obviously, work hard. That goes, without being said. But at the college level, you can really lose your love for the game very quickly. It becomes a job. So I would say, if you just keep that passion for the game, it takes you a long ways. And people can tell when you have it and when you don't.
So have you gotten any advice from WNBA players, like former WNBA players, current, and former NBA players or current NBA players throughout your career?
No, I haven't. I don't necessarily have the connects with WNBA players or NBA players really. But I always bring everything pretty much back to in terms of advice. I go to Jana. She played on the USA team. She is such a big advocate for transitioning out of athletics, and I think that is something that's very prevalent right now in college sports. And something I've been thinking about a lot lately is how do you do that? So haven't had the opportunity to directly speak with any professional athletes, but I definitely look to certain people who know what they're talking about and inspire me.
So I do this fun little segment now with all my guests that come on the show. It's called the rapid fire segment.
Oh boy.
You ready for this?
As ready as I'll ever be.
Kawhi Leonard's laugh or Kevin Hart's laugh?
Kawhi Leonard.
Favorite food?
Sweet green salad.
How many ankles have you broken so far in your career?
Maybe 1 or 2.
What is your most high scoring game?
27 in college, 36 in high school.
Wow. What's your most memorable game that you played in high school at Villanova?
In high school, state championship game, my senior year definitely. And at Villanova, my second to last game I ever played, which is when I had 27 points.
Have you interacted with Coach Jay Wright when you were there?
Yes, minimal.
So what? Obviously, in Boston University, what do you? Hopefully, there's fans next year. But if there is not, or if it's like, for example, 22 or 25% capacity, what's going to be like just to be back on the court for a regular season game and in front of some fans, and what's going to be like there at Boston University?
It'll be great. I'm at a point in my career where I'm not too concerned about the fans. I just really want to end my career on a high. I want to be able to play for Coach Mo and win a Patriot League championship, or 2, or maybe 3.
Is your goal to be or not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7, not 8, like LeBron?
Yeah, exactly. If I could stay that long, it would definitely be that many.
Yeah. um, but have you consider? Is your goal to be in the WNBA?
Not anymore.
Oh, okay. Um, have you considered being like a coach or something, or in the future?
Yes.
Hmm. My next question is, what do you like to do outside of playing basketball?
I love watching TED Talks, listening to podcasts. In the summer, I love to go paddleboarding at my grandparents' lake house. Really, any outdoor activities. I feel like I'm a very adventurous person. Um, I just learned how over quarantine. I learned how to unicycle. Um, yeah, very random things, but I like to try it all.
Is this a? Have you been in on any other podcast recently before this one?
I've only been on one other podcast.
Hmm. Have you considered starting a podcast for yourself?
I have considered it, but only as a joke. And it's funny, I was talking with my teammate last night who I wanted to start it with. And we were going to do it over winter break when we have plenty of time. And so we were trying to come up with things to talk about, but I don't know if I'd be a great host. So
Oh no, I mean, no, you're going to be a great host. Come on.
thank you.
What was your thoughts on the NBA bubble and the WNBA bubble, and the obviously Lakers winning it in Seattle Storm?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely watched more of the WNBA. I do have to say I enjoy watching the WNBA games a little bit more, but I felt bad for them to a certain extent because sometimes I put myself in their position. I'm like, I can't imagine not being able to separate my life from my sport that I'm playing. Um, so I felt bad for them in that sense, and it's a little bit, you're literally in a bubble. And so, mentally it's challenging. But I thought the WNBA did great, for only having like a day off in between games. I thought they did great and they looked wonderful and they played like they hadn't been in quarantine. So props to them. And, same for the NBA. I did watch a little bit of it, but, they're always exciting. Yeah, but definitely loved watching the WNBA.
What's your pregame music before heading to a game?
It really depends on my mood or what mood I need to get myself in. But usually like R&B, kind of like calm before the storm type thing. And or depending on like if I really need to get amped up, some whatever music my teammates play because that always gets me amped up.
What's it like seeing the city of LA being a title town this year, because they've been through a lot with the wildfires and obviously COVID, and what's it like just seeing them winning 2 titles in 1 year?
It's awesome, and I think it brings a lot of joy to the city and really something to look forward to and kind of essentially distract from all the things that have been happening. So, I'm really happy for them. But hopefully next year we can bring more of those championships to Boston.
Yeah. Actually, I'm a Yankee fan here. I'm a Cowboy fan, Knicks fan, and Rangers fan. So
Oh, so you got it all over.
yeah. So speaking of Boston, obviously they have a great fan base too. And have you explored the city of Boston yet? And what's it like living in Boston right now?
Yeah, BU is kind of intertwined in the city. So, as much as it is its own campus, you really do get the city feel. And, Fenway's not far from us. So I always go down there. It's just like, I've really enjoyed it. I'm from a small town, so I thought I was going to hate being in a city school, specifically coming out of high school. And I've learned to love it. Like, I love having everyday people in my college experience. I love being able to take the blue bikes off campus to Brookline or to Fenway or kind of wherever I want to go. So yeah, it's definitely been very enjoyable.
Do you have a nickname that teammates call you, or?
Well, it's funny. I used to, like everyone in high school and most people at Villanova used to always call me Espo. And like one girl in high school asked one of my teammates, like, is her name Espo? Like not quite, not Esposito. But yeah, at BU, everyone just calls me Emily or M.
Hmm. So the couple last two things here before I let you go. This is a question I've been bringing up to all my guests about the late Kobe Bryant, his daughter Gianna, Mama Mentality, and the rest of the people that were involved in the horrible crash. And he was one of my role models growing up, and it was just tough to see, especially his daughter involved. And she was UConn bound, and she was really talented at 14 years old, and she already had the fadeaway shot like her father. But do you remember where you were at that day, and what did they mean to you?
Yeah, I was actually right outside of this room with one of my teammates who she absolutely loved Kobe as well, as I'm sure everyone did and does. But we were sitting there and we saw it on, I think it was TMZ. And she's like, Emily, are you seeing this? And I'm like, that has to be a joke. That can't, like, it's one of those things you can't fathom. And it's so tragic. But yeah, obviously ended up finding out, no, it was real. But he was just always like, I feel honored that I was able to watch him play, like his last years. But just such like a bright spirit, someone who inspired everyone, left a legacy wherever he went. I think he's someone to strive for, people to be like. So, I really appreciate everything he's also done for the women's game, which is
Yeah.
huge.
And before we get to the last thing, what's the one word that you keep for yourself for motivation when you wake up every day and getting ready for a game or something? What's the one word that you keep for yourself, and why?
Embrace.
Um, and why?
Because it's like, whether you like it or whether you don't, you need to embrace it to do your best.
Hmm.
So I think it's just a mentality.
And the last thing here, would you like to say anything to all the nurses, doctors, and essential workers?
Yes. My mom's actually a nurse and she's been working on COVID, but just seeing how taxing it can be, like a huge thank you to all healthcare workers, first responders, um, essential workers, just everyone who has been part of, keeping our world running essentially.
There it is, episode 582. Women's basketball player Emily Esposito, formerly from Villanova, now at Boston University. Hopefully, whenever you guys play next year, good luck this season and keep working at it, keep grinding. I'm really looking forward to you guys playing next year. And obviously, you're a great player, Sabrina Aisco 2.0. I'm telling you right now, you're talented, you're inspiring. Keep up the great work, and I'll be posting this on all social media formats. And thank you again for coming on, and happy Halloween. And you and your family stay safe.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Anytime.